Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the July 15th retirement seminar. And I'm Kim Tech, and this is Patrick Hancock,
Hey,
your usual suspects, and we're here to put you in the loop about everything about retirement. So let's get going.
all righty then. Good morning
Once again.
once again. Um, This is the APFA Retirement Seminar. This is Kim Coates Tuck. Take a look at these pictures. I have no idea where they came from.
They're cute.
She's the APFA National Retirement Specialist. I'm Patrick Hancock, the National Retirement Specialist Emeritus. And we are here as your APFA representatives. So that's who we are. Also give a big shout out to Ron Harris.
Yay, Ron.
Hey, Ron. Ron Harris is responsible for most of the graphics and stuff you'll see in this presentation, and we always appreciate his hard work and dedication to the flight attendants. So that's who we are. Who we are not is we are not the company. This is a union meeting, and I have been a union representative for way too many years and have developed a healthy cynicism about the management of this company. And therefore, if you hear me say things that are somewhat rude about our management, I offend you, oh, well, we'll get over it. Yeah. We're also not your financial advisors, and you will hear us say at least 10 times in the course of this presentation that you need a financial advisor. And we are not it, but we know a lot of good ones that we can refer you to. We're also not your attorneys. We're not your Medicare advisors. The who? Yeah, we'll explain who those folks are because you'll probably need them too. And we're not your Social Security advisors, which is probably a thought you hadn't even thought of, but yes. So I've got a question for you. Here's the membership by age. How many do you think of our flight attendants are over the age of 80? 80 and up and above? Ha, you're wrong. Yeah, it's 30.
This
30.
was in April, so it may have changed slightly, but
Yeah.
there may be more.
Retirements, graduations, so on, yes. But they're not alone in being a little senior in this crowd. Take a look at these numbers. We get all the way down to 50 to 5 to 59. We're at 4,900. No idea where we are.
You need to click it so it goes all the numbers, and then we're having a little technical difficulties with our slides. You guys can see them, but we can't see them. So we're trying to make sure you know what we're looking at and give you those fun numbers about the demographics.
So that means over 55, we have 11,958 flight attendants. That's a huge, I mean, more than a third of our flight attendants are eligible today to retire. And so it seems like APFA and the company are spending a lot of time, energy, and effort talking about retirement, planning, helping people plan for retirement. That is why, because that's where we are as a group. And so if you look at the rest of it, we had this sort of gap in the middle. We didn't hire for like 10 years. And then, wow, look at it now. From 25 to 21, we've got 3,400 flight attendants. So those are all those cute little things you see running around operations. Darling, glad to have them here. Move the seniority list up. So that is, that's our membership. Kim, can you give us some housekeeping?
Yes, I can give us some housekeeping. So the Good Slide presentation follows our retirement packet called Good Slide. And if you have a copy of that, you don't need to take notes. If you don't really want to take notes, you can get a copy of our retirement packet. We'll be happy to email one to you or mail one to you to your home address. So if you have any questions, submit them via chat. We have a little question tracker and we'll answer questions as we go along. So please submit your questions. Also, at the back of our Good Slide packet, there are a lot of very useful checklists. If you're thinking about retiring soon and 6 months, 3 months, a year, it's a useful tool to have. It's not anything you actually have to fill out for the company, but it's a useful bit of information if you're doing your retirement planning. Also, at the back of the Good Slide retirement packet are all the important contacts, like for Fidelity, Alight, the most important contact of all, APFA Retirement Department, retirement@apfa.org is the email address. So feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. All right. So what does retirement really mean? That's what we're going to be discussing during the presentation today. Normally, retirement is comprised of three separate, portions. So one being your medical benefits.
You're not caught up on the slides.
That's weird.
Clicker.
The clicker, okay.
Yeah.
So what's this?
This is.
Sorry, we're still having technical difficulties. We appreciate your patience.
Keep going.
Okay. All right. So that was all the stuff we're talking about. Housekeeping? What was that slide? Okay. All right. So we got your medical benefits. We got your retirement benefits, such as your travel benefits, your your retiree ID card that allows you to get your FedEx discount and so on. And we've got your income benefits, which we used to call pension/401k. Now the 401k is something that everybody has. And unfortunately, not everybody has a pension anymore after multiple bankruptcies in the airline industry. So everybody needs to be working on that 401k because that's going to be your main source of retirement income. All right, so, oh wait, I went the wrong way. What we're going to cover in the presentation is what do you need to retire? What do you get in retirement? What about income? That's crucially important. And what else do I need to research? All those other little details that you don't think about that you kind of need to think about before you retire. So, what do you need to retire? That's our first question. Well, you need to be eligible. You need money. We have stressed that already. And you need to be ready. So in order to be eligible, you have to have at least 10 years of company seniority based on your date of hire, and your age plus your company seniority must equal 65 or more. That's what's known as the 65-point plan, and that is the company's criteria for retirement eligibility. There's also a mandatory form now. It's in Crew Portal, and it used to be in Flight Attendant Service Center. They just switched it again without telling us ahead of time, so we haven't had a chance to switch our presentation. Crew Portal, then departments, and then Flight Attendant Administration, FA Administration. That's where you can find the form. And if you click on forms, it's the very last form in the list, retirement notification. It's super easy. You don't have to print it out. It's all done online.
It's also on the tablet.
I don't know. Well, it's on the tablet in Crew Portal. I don't think it's in Comply anymore. They keep moving it around to confuse us. So it was in Comply, wasn't on the, Flight Service website, but that's gone. So they just can't really decide where they want to put it. Hopefully it'll stay under FA admin for a while now that they put it there. It seems to make sense to have it there anyway. All right. So, Patrick, we're going to talk about money.
All right, let's
talk about money. How do I get ready to retire in terms of income?
All right, when you're doing long-range planning, there are two major questions you have to answer. The first is, how much do I need to have on the day I retire to last minute the rest of my life? And that's one of the most common questions you will hear in retirement planning. What's the number? What's the goal? And I frequently get this question on the airplane. What's the number I need? I don't know. How much do you spend? How many millionaires did you marry in divorce? How many? Yeah, none. Yeah, that's and so those things all drive determining what that number is. You know who can tell you? A financial planner. And definitely recommend you sit down. Even if you're the most amazing finance guru in the planet, you should probably sit down with a financial planner, just have somebody else look over your numbers. So that recommend you do that. Because one of the things they will tell you is, okay, well, here's a good number. And they will then tell you what you need to, how much you need to save every pay period between now and then in order to get that number. And here's the most frustrating part. We want a definitive answer on things like, how much should I have? When should I leave? And we don't know. And that's because there are too many unknowns. The most important of which is, when are you going to die? Because that drives how much money you need. If you're planning on dying at 67, you should probably talk to a counselor. But
No.
yeah. So if you're planning on living to 106, your financing needs are going to be very different. And we don't know the answer to that. So the best we can do is give you an approximation, give you the odds. If you have this much money, the odds are 98% that your money will survive you, which are, by the way, really good odds, is 98%. So that's the most frustrating part. And you will find as you go through this process that you will grow more and more accustomed to the uncertainty. But so, and if you're just starting thinking of retiring soon and you haven't begun to address these questions, you will have challenges, which I think is corporate speak for years fruit. And you may be here longer than you would like. Of the slides, my favorite is that one in the bottom right. I said you held Christmas off. Although that doesn't seem to be going on anymore. So how do we do this planning? Well, the general goal is you want to maintain the same lifestyle you had while you were working. Great. I mean, I'm really tired of being poor. I would like to be one of those wealthy retirees I see on the commercials, jetting off to the beach, going off on my Silver Sneakers gym membership. But oh no, apparently no, I'm just destined to stay the same lifestyle you had while you were working. So if you're going to retire at age 67, the first question you have to ask is, how long am I going to live?
What?
What? Yeah, this is that whole frustrating part. Yeah. Well, so how does that work? Well,
Who knows?
who
Nobody
knows? No, nobody knows. And that becomes the first of our answers. Well, what? That's not an answer. Come on. Yeah. And so here's some guesstimates. It becomes the first of our guesstimates here. Your life expectancy in 2024 is 78.4 years. By the way, 2020 had the largest decline since World War II, and 2024 was the first time it ticked back up. So,
Yay.
thank you, opioid epidemic. Thank you, COVID. Thank you, deaths of despair. But we seem to be back more on a
Positive trend.
positive trend. Now, let me talk about this. For men, that's 75.8 years. For women, that's 81.1.
Woohoo.
So that means actually women have a harder time in financial planning because they've got to fund their lifestyle longer. And that's going to be less for African Americans, 72.8, and more for Hispanics, 80. I got all of this information out of the National Vital Statistics Report, Volume 6, Book 6, and I swear to God, this is the best cure for insomnia I've ever found in my life. Take that on a layover, you will sleep like a baby. But that's just the first of our guesstimates. And the problem with that is it's just an average. Half of us are going to die sooner, half of us are going to die later. And as much as we would all like to be in the half that dies later, half of us will die sooner than that average. So, yeah, which half are you in?
If only we knew.
If only we knew. Maybe look at your family heritage. I love telling the story. I started going gray in high school, and it was so traumatic because you're trying to fit in, and here I'm getting gray hair. People would mistake me for an instructor. It was terrible. And so I went home one day and I said, "Mom, I discovered in biology class today that my gray hair is all your fault. Everything about a man's hair genes comes on his mother's genes." And I said, "So what's going to happen next? Am I going to go bald in college? I mean, did my uncles or grandfathers or anybody go bald early?" She says, "Oh, honey, none of them ever lived that long." Great. Thanks, Mom. A good genetic heritage, the best gift you can give your children. But the age is just the first of our guesstimates. We have other estimates like salary projection because we know salaries always go up. unless you're in the airline industry and have been here a while. For those of you who've been here for less than 10 years, trust me, the curve is not always up sloping. So we'll see. How about inflation? Inflation always goes up, sometimes more than necessary. And also it didn't go up for like 10 frickin' years. So yeah, but you still have to plan for that. And then stock market returns. I'm not even going to talk about that because yeah. So once you've got all that, then it's the hardest question of all. Are you ready to retire? And the thing is, you have to be ready. We talked to a lot of flight attendants who've already retired and you know, the company's found some new way to screw them. And so we, you know, when we finally get the problem fixed, I said, oh, wait a minute. I've got a question for you now. Did you retire at the right time? Are you happy? Are you bored? You know, how did that work out for you? And like 98, 99% are like, oh, it's the best thing I ever did. I don't know why I waited. My life is so full. I don't know how I ever had time to go to work. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to those who aren't happy. Why aren't they happy? What happened? And almost universally, it's because they didn't plan. $40,000, man, that'll last for the rest of my life. I'm out of here. Or they took what I call the sudden out. Sudden out, that's where the union rep and the supervisor meet you on the jet bridge. And as you're walking up the jet bridge, the union rep says, whispers in your ear, I got your retirement. I recommend you take it. And planned. Or your doctor says, no, you can't ever go back to work. You didn't plan. And I have good news for you. You're here on this seminar because you're planning. You're going to be in the 98, 99% that are happy. Congratulations. And then the other question is, have you reached that point? Yeah, because we're flight attendants, we will ask all of our friends and buddy bidders and maybe even our spouses or financial advisors if we're ready to retire. And because they all love and want the best for you, they will tell you what's right for them because they don't know what's right for you. And that's one of those questions you will just have to decide in your head. One of the best explanations I've heard of that feeling is not a flight attendant asked her the question. She says, well, I wasn't sure it was time to retire. Or at least not 100% sure. I was fairly sure. And she said, all of a sudden I had that revelation. The last time I had this level of doubt and uncertainty, I was applying to be a stewardess because back then it was a stewardess. And so, yeah, she said, I just kind of went with the feeling that this is probably going to work. And it worked out well as a flight attendant, and it's working out great in retirement. So you have to ask yourself, have you reached that point?
I think we have some questions.
All right, let's do questions.
So the first question is, if I decide to retire at 69, when do I tell the company I want to retire? And how early do I need to switch to Medicare? Well, if you are, there's, two different choices on how soon you need to let the company know, because now we have what's called an RHRA, Retiree Health Reimbursement Account. And if you have a lot of sick time at the time of your retirement, you can elect to put 50% of the full value of your sick time into that account. If you decide you want to elect the RHRA, you need to give the company 4 months advance notice. So if you don't have very much sick time or you just don't want to elect the RHRA, there's no specified notification period. So you could let them know. Usually we recommend at least 30 days, but it's not required. Some people do 2 weeks. Some people decide, I want to retire tomorrow and do it. So just be sure that that's what you want to do. So 4 months notification is required if you want the RHRA, and there is not a specified notification if you don't want the RHRA. Good rule of thumb is 30 days.
Actually, I have a slide on that if you think it would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So notification, how and when?
We can jump ahead to that.
No, we should have done the question. Okay. So mandatory notification form. And we went through where you would find that, the crew portal, Department's Flight Attendant Service Center, except now it's under administration, did you say?
Flight Attendant Administration.
And ignore that EFB Comply 365. We're still working on that one.
Yeah, I don't think it's in there anymore. I looked just yesterday and I didn't find it, but sometimes they hide things and.
Yeah. If you're electing the RHRA, as Kim says, you have to give 4 months' notice. If you are not electing the RHRA, no notice is required. You still have to fill out the form, but no notice is required. And actually, it says right there on the form that no notice is required. So this is what the form looks like. Just a lot of click the buttons, fill in the blanks, and the implementation update. And right there, it says no notice is needed. If you plan to retire on or after February 1st, which you all are, the form must be.
Take that out.
I think we can take that out, must before your planned retirement date. Now we're to questions.
And there was another part of this question, which is, if I'm planning on retiring, how soon do I need to sign up for Medicare? I mean, optimum is because Medicare is medical coverage that you're paying for, and your AA coverage is medical coverage that you're paying for. So you want to time it so that you're not double paying really, because why do that? Most people try and time it so that their AA coverage, which ends on your last day as an active employee at midnight, ends. And then the next day they're retired and Medicare begins the next day. Medicare always starts on the first of a calendar month. So that is one of the big drivers for most people retiring on the first of a calendar month, because that way their AA insurance will end on the 30th or the 31st, and their Medicare will start on the 1st. And for Medicare, it takes about the longest thing you have to wait for, and we're going to talk about this further in the presentation, but there's a form if you're over age 65 that you need to get back from the company. It can take a few weeks to get that form back. So we usually recommend that you start the process of signing up for Medicare 60 days prior to your retirement date. That's usually more than enough time to get the form back. Once you have the form in your hand, you can get signed up for Medicare very quickly. All right, so that answers this question. And again, we're going to cover more about Medicare in the latter part of our presentation. So here's a question for Patrick. We talked about this, but once again, to reiterate, how much notice does AA require if I'm thinking of retiring at the end of this year?
None, unless
you
have sick time that you want to convert to an RHR, and then you have to give them 4 months notice. And the good news is I can't bid for next month, much less figure out 4 months in advance. But the good news is if you put in the form, you can withdraw it if you change your mind. So put in the notification and give yourself, say I'm retiring on December 31st, because you said the end of the year, which is actually pretty cool because you're gonna if you stay with American on January 1st, you have a new deductible for your health care. But if you go to Medicare on that day, well, you've got a new deductible anyway, but it's the Medicare deductible and you don't have two in the same year.
Okay, so I think that's all for this section. So,
all right, so then I've got a question. What do you get in retirement, Kim?
Okay, what do you get in retirement? Well, now I need to get back to this section. So complicated. Okay, so what you get in retirement is. Oh, okay. Okay. You get paid out, you get travel privileges.
Yay.
Yay! Lots of us stick around for at least 10 years with the company, and the age plus the years of service equaling 65 or more, just so we can keep those travel benefits. You get paid out for your sick and your vacation. You get the option to elect the RHRA. That is also linked to being eligible for the 65-point plan, along with being paid out for your sick time. You get a fabulous retirement gift. You get the status of being an American Airlines retiree. And you get the option if you're between age 55 and 65, not yet eligible for Medicare, but eligible for the 65-point plan, to elect some really, really expensive retiree medical insurance, which we will talk about a little bit later in the presentation. So let's talk about travel. So you get your Oh, wait, no sick and vacation. No, I went. Okay, so you get your D1, your D2R, your D3, AA20, and 20% off American Airlines Advantage tickets. You get all your non-rev travel is booked on the retirees website, which that's where you go to access Travel Planner once you're retired. Travel Planner is exactly the same. The retirees website is www.retirees.aa.com. Your service charges and your taxes are charged to a credit card, just like they are now. And a pro tip for anybody that hasn't figured it out yet, if a D3 is flying, let them enter their credit card for a one-time payment, and then that way you don't have to pay your D3's travel charges. Your Red travel is booked through the My ID travel app, just like it is on JetNet, but it's on the retirees website. Again, that's www.retirees.aa.com. There are some non-rev friendly travel agencies such as Perks and Dargal. You know, you want to take a cruise or something, you're still eligible for those discounts as a retiree. And a pro tip is that if you are getting ready to your global entry or TSA pre-check is getting ready to retire, you want to go ahead and try and get that renewed on the company dime prior to your retirement. So if that's coming up, you may want to delay the notification that you're going to retire until you get reimbursed for your TSA pre-check and global entry one more time. Obviously, this only works if the timing is right, but it is something to consider. Is anything? Okay, so next is sick and vacation time. All of your unused sick time, if you're eligible for the 65-point plan, is paid out at $8.65 per sick hour, which is why it's a good idea if you have a lot of sick time to elect the RHRA. All unused and accrued vacation is paid out at the full contractual rate, which is 4 hours per day at your rate of pay. And remember, our contract was ratified in October, on October 1st. So our rate of pay will go up on October 1st. So if you're thinking, do I want to retire in October or November? I mean, September or October, maybe wait till October because the new rate of pay will kick in on October 1st and you'll get paid out at a slightly higher rate for your vacation. Your vacation payout is eligible for you to make a contribution into your 401k. However, it's not eligible for the company contribution and match. Oh, and another tip is that you can change your 401k elections prior to your retirement if you want to put 100% of your vacation pay into your 401k. You can change it as long as you haven't maxed out yet for the year. So a lot of people do that before they retire. All right, the retiree health reimbursement account. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So this is the new account that we got when the contract was ratified back in October. You have to be eligible for the 65-point plan in order to elect the RHRA. You have to notify the company, as we mentioned, at least 4 months in advance. And you can put 50% of the full value of your sick time into the RHRA. Now, does this mean you get to keep the other 50%? No, you either get paid out at $8.65 per sick hour, or you get 50% of the full value of your sick time in the RHRA. 50% of the full value of people's sick time can end up to be a pretty big number. So I talked to a girl yesterday who's in her 50s and considering retirement, and she had some sick time that will carry her to Medicare in the RHRA. So that was really helpful. We used to always want a bridge to retire to Medicare, and this can be for some people if they have a lot of sick time that they haven't used. All right, so The RHRA is a notional account, which means it's not real money sitting in an account. It is credit for reimbursement. Darn. So you have to have a medical expense, show that you've paid for something, submit proof that you've paid for something, and then you will be reimbursed for that expense. So there are a few little hoops to jump through, but based on my conversations with most of the people that took the VOPS during COVID, who were the first people to get these RHRA accounts, they say it's well worth it to jump through a few hoops. It can be if you have enough, money left over, like having your Medicare premiums or your COBRA or whatever for free, basically, once you get reimbursed for it. So it's a good thing, even though you have to do a few little bureaucratic stuff to get it paid for.
Yeah, and if you've done the FSA account where you don't use the card, but you instead pay for it yourself, maybe you're paying for it yourself with your Aviator Red MasterCard, may interest you in an application, and getting the miles and then getting reimbursed. It's the same people, it's the same format. And I'll give you a heads up, you will be required to provide a receipt for anything that's dental or vision, because they want to make sure they're not paying for teeth whitening or sunglasses. So just be prepared for that.
Getting your eyes done.
Oh, please, that's medical necessity. I need it for my mental health.
Sometimes it is medical necessity, but also the RHRA is administered by Fidelity, just like your 401k. So that's kind of helpful. And there's a list of expenses on the IRS website. There is a card, just like with the FSA, but usually if you swipe the card for a small purchase, like a prescription drug or something, it will recognize that and go through on the card. But for bigger things like premiums and so on, they're usually going to want proof. So next, a retirement gift. You are going to get a retirement gift. Fabulous. Usually within, now it's 60 days of your retirement, the retirement gift catalog will be mailed to your home address. You used to have to remind your supervisor. Now you don't need to do that anymore. Once you submit that retirement notification form online, messages go to all the pertinent people at the company. So your supervisor will find out, the gift people will find out that you're going to retire, the admin people will find out, so you won't have anything on your schedule after that retirement date. So the form, in theory, makes it a lot easier, and that's all you have to do. Some people, if they have a good relationship with their supervisor, there's been a lot of change around lately, and I've had multiple supervisors in the last 6 months, but if you know your supervisor and have a good relationship, it's always a good courtesy to let them know, hey, I just submitted the retirement notification form, wanted to let you know. Okay, so next about the retirement gift, the catalog comes with a commemorative certificate with your years of service, and it includes a wide array of gift options, such as, here's an example, a crystal tail that you can get. They have jewelry from Tiffany's. They have plaques. Somebody ordered a champagne bucket recently. Somebody ordered a watch recently. Also, you have the option to donate to Wings if you don't really want a retirement gift. And one last tip is give yourself a gift by using your nonstop things prior to your retirement, because you are not going to be able to use those after you retire. So make sure you cash out your nonstop things. All right, next. Your status is going to be changing. So it's going to be changing from Sky Goddess to, if you're like Patrick and me, this is our aspiration, Cat Rancher. But a lot of people, your lifestyle is going to change. And a lot of people's angst around retirement involves, walking away from the flight attendant lifestyle, because it's more than just a job, it's a lifestyle. So once you've made up the mind that you're ready to do that, just, you'll be ready for that status change. And part of that, you will have a retiree ID card. You can submit an online request for your retiree ID card. You can do it prior to your retirement on JetNet. If you go to Team Member Services, then Retirement, there's a lot of interesting information that you can review on the company website. The retiree ID card is not used for travel. A lot of people are confused about that. You use it for discounts, hotels, car rentals, and so on. After you retire, your FedEx discount, which you still have. In order to travel, you need a government issued photo ID. So your passport or your driver's license. Also on the retirees website, you're going to be able to access travel planner like we mentioned before. You will have payroll access so you can do your taxes. Unfortunately, you still got to do that after you retire. Bummer. Your detailed sequence history will not be available on the retirees website. So if you want to print out your sequences and so on, you should do that before you retire. And another thing, if you're not ready to retire, you can just quit. So you just notify your manager that you want to you're not eligible to retire, but you're ready to leave the company. You will still get paid out for your vacation at the contractual rate. Unfortunately, you won't get paid out for your sick time or be eligible for the RHRA because those are linked to being eligible for the 65-point plan. And unfortunately, you won't get the passes. But sometimes people's priorities change. I just talked to a girl the other day who had a baby and she's been flying for a year since the baby was born, but she just decided, hey, I love the job, but now my kid's my priority and I'm not up for doing this anymore. And so what do I need to do to just resign my position as a flight attendant? And you can do that if that works best for you. Okay, so I went through quitting. Sorry, we're a little behind. You notify your flight service manager, as I said.
Whoever that is.
Whoever that is, your vacation is going to be paid out at the contractual rate because that is contractual. If you want to wait till after October 1st to quit, you'll get it at the higher rate. If you're LAA and you have a pension, you need to call Fidelity to find out when and how you can commence those pension benefits. If you're LUS and you have a pension, you need to contact the PBGC because they administer the Legacy US Airways pensions. Also, as I mentioned before, if you're not eligible for the 65-point plan, you're not going to be able to get paid out for your sick time. So if you're thinking about quitting, you might have some legitimate medical issues that you need to use that sick time for. All right, any questions? Questions about travel and getting paid out for your vacation and so on?
Yes. So yeah, this is for you. I'm retiring late in the year. I have 4 D1s. Sorry, I am assuming I lose those upon retirement. If so, am I given my retirement D1s right away? How many do I get and when do they expire at the end of the calendar year, or is it a rolling 12-month period?
Okay, so kind of a combination of those things. Basically, in the year that you retire, if you have 4 D1s left, you have those 4 D1s for the rest of the year because you have the same number of D1s as a retiree as you do as an active employee. So if you've used them all, you don't get any more. They don't automatically renew when you retire. You have the balance of what you had for that year. In the new calendar year, you'll get the same amount again, just like you did as an active employee. So did I answer that clearly?
Yes, you did. All right.
And then was there another, D3s, you don't get as many D3s. So, you get half the number of D3s. If you've used all your D3s, you will not get any more D3s until the next calendar year. If you get 8 round trips or 16 one-ways as an active employee. So as a retiree, you get 4 round trips or 8 one-ways.
Yeah.
So if you've used, 4 of your round trips, then you still have another 4 round trips when you retire. If you've used all your D3s, you won't have any until the next calendar year.
All right. And then calendar year or rolling 12-month?
Calendar year.
Calendar year. Okay. All right. 3-part question. For new flight attendants, how many hours of vacation do you receive in year 1 and how is it accumulated, monthly or yearly? And how is it accessible for flight attendants to request? We have the weirdest vacation accrual ever. You accrue, which means it's banked for you monthly
In the
And-
calendar year.
in the calendar year. And you can see that if you pull up your HISK, which on Crew Portal is one of the FOSS commands. You've got your HI1, HI2, HISK, and HISKL, which is last year's. And you can see that you're having those vacation hours banked for you. You can't touch them yet because after the year is over, we'll know how many hours you banked during the year. And we say bank, I say banked, it's accrued is the contract name. So you'll accrue those during the calendar year. And then sometime after that, like in February, you'll have an opportunity to bid for those. But because we're already well into the new year, we now have a vacation year, which is May 1st through April 30th. So you're using last calendar year's vacation time for your vacation year, which is May 1st through April 30th. Yes, does that answer your question?
There's a little bit of an administrative lag time.
Yes.
And how much you get every month is based on, where you are seniority wise. So if you're at the top of the pay scale and you're getting, 35 days, it's just under 3 days a month. And it goes down if you're at a lower seniority. So you basically take how many days a year you're eligible for and divide that by the 12 months. Now, there's a lot of confusion about the vacation because we earn it in the calendar year, then we bid for it. There's a little bit of an administrative lag time. So a lot of people think that we are not able to, if we retire, we won't get that vacation, or we have to wait till January 1st of the next year to be issued that vacation or whatever. But when you retire, you are paid out for any unused bid vacation. So any vacation you bid for that you haven't used yet, in addition to that, you are paid out for any accrued vacation that you have earned at the time of your retirement. So you don't have to wait to the end of the year. When you retire, you're going to be paid out for, if I was going to retire August 1st, I would be paid out for anything I've been accrued between January 1st and the end of July. So I would be paid out for basically 7 months of 7 months of vacation that I've accrued that I haven't bid for yet. So kind of like you get even better than an automatic vacation buyback when you retire. So.
Yeah. Okay, the second question is pretty much the same question, except now it's for sick time. And actually, if you look at that HISK, you'll see that that also shows you the sick time you're accruing as well. But here's the good news. It's not banking up somewhere. Every month when they credit it, which is usually the 7th or the 10th of the next month, that goes into your HI1 and available for use. So your sick time accrues monthly and it gets credited to you on a mostly monthly basis. So that's there.
And sick accrual is not based on seniority. We all accrue at sick time at the same level. And what is it, 4.5 hours a month?
4.5 hours or 4 hours and 30 minutes, depending on, yeah.
And that's in a month. You have to be active, and active means you're active and available for at least 15 days during that month.
Okay, and then the question is about PTO days. We don't have PTO days.
We have vacation days,
vacation
which are
days.
more or less the same thing,
Oh.
or sick time. One or the other of those would be what some companies call PTO, I guess.
And you may hear what you thought was PTO among flight attendants talking, but they were talking about PO days, which are personal off days. And those are unpaid and therefore emergency type situations, your kid's in the hospital, your aunt got run over by a bear. So you have a right to request up to 2 of those a calendar year. And then the company has a right to grant more based on, what your circumstances and so on. So, and those are unpaid, to be clear. Now, you can take some of your vacation days when you do your bidding and put them over into a special different bank for you to use to get paid for days off. And I'm drawing a complete blank on what the, yeah. But
it's more of a contract question.
so, but you can bank
What,
up
the
to
VEX days?
No, that's the stretch it out. But yeah, you can bank up to 6 days worth of vacation or vacation time to get paid for PO days. Yeah, we'll just leave that there. All right, the next question is for you, Kim. I'm thinking about retiring January 2026. If I retire a bit earlier, say November or December, will I be paid for my accrued vacation at the maximum hours? I heard that you had to complete the full year in order to get paid out.
And we just covered that one. You don't have to complete the full year in order to be paid out for your vacation. You'll get paid for everything you've accrued up until the day of your retirement, when you retire. And usually it's about 2 to 4 weeks after you retire that you get paid out for your vacation.
Okay.
I think that may have happened once upon a time, way back when, for at least on the LAA side, that you had to complete the full year before you were issued your vacation, but that changed quite some time ago.
Yeah, that actually changed in the 79 contract, and I hate that I know that. Okay. Okay, if I retire using the 65-point plan, is the flight benefit the only thing I get, or do I get any type of Social Security or other income? Those are completely independent. Social Security is, did you work in a quarters? Are you eligible in terms of age 62, 67? But retiring and starting anything else are completely independent steps. And that's really important if you're talking about starting your pension, because frequently we get in our mind, well, I'm going to retire, so they'll go ahead and start my pension for me. No, it's completely separate steps. And that makes sense when you think about it, that under the 65-point plan, we can have people in their early 50s eligible to leave under the 65-point plan and retire. They're not yet eligible for their pension. They're not yet eligible for Social Security. So when they reach Medicare, unfortunately. So when you reach those ages, even though you're retired back at age 52, when you reach those ages, it's a separate step to initiate the pension payment, to initiate Social Security. So
and there are people that work longer, people that are in their, late 70s that started their Social Security at age 70 and they're still working. So on either end, it is separate. You can still be working and taking your Social Security once you hit your full Social Security age. And on the other end, if you retire before you're eligible, you have to wait until you're eligible.
All right. The next one's tagged for me. It's wanted to know the shortest time to take the most money. And they tagged it as
like
pension.
401k or pension? Maybe, I don't know. That's weird.
I don't know that question. If you can put that question back in with a little more
details, please.
Yeah.
Are these for the next one?
That was for 44. We're ready to move.
Okay, so we're ready to talk about income. So
we also have some questions at the bottom of the spreadsheet if you guys can scroll down.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
The voice from above. All right, this is for Kim. Can the RHR account be used for copays?
The RHRA account can be used for copays. Absolutely. That's one of the things that we'll cover.
Can I retire if I am QI?
Yes, you can retire from QI status, from IOD, from medical leave. Lots of people aren't able to come back to work as long as you're eligible for the 65-point plan. You can retire basically from any status.
All right. Do all flight attendants have an option for an RHRA account, even if I am on my husband's medical?
Any flight attendant that has unused sick time and is eligible for the 65-point plan and gives the 4 months notification is eligible for the RHRA. Basically, how much sick time you have left is going to gauge whether you think it's worthwhile or not. If I had maybe 12 hours of sick time, I may not bother to put it in an RHRA, but if I have, even 50 hours of sick time or more, I think it would be worth it to do the RHRA.
Yeah. And speaking of the RHRA, you already answered this, but I'm going to ask it a slightly different way.
Okay.
Because we keep saying that you get half the sick bank, and that's not true. You get all of the sick bank, but you get it at half pay.
Right.
And because of that misunderstanding, this question is my understanding is if we choose a buyout at pay scale for the half of the remaining sick time, what happens to the other half? You get all of your sick bank just at half pay. And how far in advance does the company need to be notified by the option for the payout?
4
months. All right, perfect.
Anything else we haven't covered down there?
Oh my gosh. We haven't sorted them yet.
Are there any RHRA or vacation?
Yes, I have
vacation.
vacation week, mid-December, trying to decide if retirement day should be right after or at the end of the month.
Doesn't really matter either way, you will get paid for that vacation. You will never lose any money on your vacation. So you get to decide, do I want to retire at the beginning of December so I don't have to deal with any of the holiday stuff? Or do I just want to do my week of vacation and then retire at the end of December? So it's whatever works best for you.
The end of the month is frequently an insurance question and not a money question. But also avoiding flying over Christmas might be a good motivation there as well.
That's often a good motivation.
Yeah. Is sick hours based on the number of hours you worked? Actually, no. It's based on being an active flight attendant for the month. And as Kim said, we all get the same number of sick hours per month if you're active. What's it mean to be active?
It means you're active and available to the company at least 15 days of the month. And sometimes the hard 40 figures into it and sometimes it doesn't. For, you're on reserve, you're getting credit. You may not actually work the 40, but you're getting reserve
You're
credit.
available.
So you're
They could have
available.
used you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can I go on JetNet to locate the retirement packet?
You can go on JetNet to locate the American Airlines retirement information. You can go on the APFA website to locate the APFA retirement packet, good slide,
Which is much better.
which is much more thorough and flight attendant friendly.
All right, perfect. Oh, one more travel question.
Okay.
Do you still get retiree guest travel?
Yes, you get the retiree guest travel. You can have a spouse or you can have a registered companion. And if you have eligible travelers that are, children under the age of 24, I think it is, they can still be D2R. You get D3, which is guest travel, but again, you get half the number of D3s that you had as an active employee.
And as a reminder, those D1s, they are
D1s.
D1s and not D1Rs. All right. Well, that's that. Let's talk about money.
Okay, Patrick, this is your area of expertise.
All right, let's talk about income. What about income? Well, in retirement, you're hopefully going to have multiple streams of income. The 401k, which is now the biggest source of income, non-Social Security income for people. You're going to have your IRA. Hopefully, you'll have something out there. You'll have Social Security, and we'll talk about Social Security a little bit. Even if our do-nothing Congress fails to put a fix in, you'll at least still get 77% of what you're anticipating. That used to be such a remote thing, and now it's not so remote. You'll have savings, and savings has weird looks about it. When we talk about retirement savings, it's not just the money you have in deposit over the credit union, and if applicable, you'll have a pension. So let's talk about what about my 401k loan? Oh, no. I know where we are. So if you've got all of those sources of income.
The stool, don't forget the stool.
It's, it's like having a 5-legged stool. And that's important because it's a lot more stable. And if one of those legs got kicked out from underneath you, say Social Security from our do-nothing Congress, then you would still have the other streams of income. I'm not saying it wouldn't hurt, but it wouldn't be totally devastating because you have those other sources of income. And I compare and contrast that. And every time I see this list, I'm always grateful. I work at a unionized workforce where my union cares about my future financial security and works hard to make sure that all of those options still remain available for us. Because I contrast me with my 5-legged stool to the over 50% of people, or 33% of people on Social Security who have nothing else. That's all they have. And what kind of financial security when your entire financial life depends on the good graces and work of the United States Congress? No, that's not good. All right. Hey, what about my 401k loan? Well, the first option is you can continue to pay that out on the same amortization schedule that you've always had. The thing is you don't have a paycheck anymore, so you now have to set up direct debit from a checking or savings account and continue to pay it back right on its amortization schedule. Or if you happen to have that much money sitting around in your jewelry box, you can just pay the loan off. If you're like me, I took the loan out because I didn't have the money sitting around. But yeah, and the second option is you can stop making payments and take the outstanding balance as a distribution, which will be taxed as income and subject to the penalty, but now you have 59.5. And oh, by the way, that money stopped earning income for you because you took it out. Not always the best option. So a couple things, 401k, one last thing to remember, your 401k will freeze for the first 30 days after your exit from the company. And I mean freeze. You can't take money out, you can't put money in, you can't change your investment. It just freezes solid for 30 days. So if you need money during the first 30 days of retirement, you might want to roll a little bit out before you retire so that you'll have access to that little bit of money.
Caveat.
Yeah, if you need money out of your 401k in the first 30 days of retirement, you may want to talk to a financial planner because you may not yet be there and ready to retire. Okay, you can also roll your 401k into an IRA. Another 401k, you go to another company, welcome to Walmart, welcome to Walmart. They have a great 401k and they would love to have you roll your American Airlines 401k into the Walmart 401k. Because every person that's added to the 401k pool reduces the cost per person. A lot of those costs are fixed, whether it's 1 or 150,000 people. So they would love to have you roll over. Before you do that, look at their costs versus the cost per person in the American Airlines 401k plan, which because we are so large, the costs tend to be really reasonable. I think we're paying $25 a quarter. $24 a quarter. Let's call it $100 a year.
Not bad.
Administrative overhead, that is dirt cheap. I pay more than that for my Chase checking account. So yeah, take a look at it before you do that. Also, your IRA. Your IRA looks very much like your 401k in that you've got a pre-tax account and you've got a post-tax account, your Roth IRA. And the problem with the IRA is there are income limits. In 2025, if you make more than 150,000 a single, which if you're senior flying a lot of hours is not totally undoable, or you're married filing jointly 236,000, you can't make a contribution. They just say no. You can make a contribution, but it's not tax deductible. So you will be offered the option to convert your 401k into an IRA. And that's great. Just make sure that you know what you're doing before you do that. I hear an awful lot of stories from people who were convinced to roll into their 401k into an IRA and discover later that it's not exactly the same product. That a 401k is a function of federal law. It's ERISA and has guarantees and protections that an IRA do not have. Not the least of which is if someone's suing you and trying to get your money, in other words, a judgment creditor, that your 401k is 100% protected under federal law. They can't get to it. An IRA, however, depends on what state you live in. I think it's Michigan of all places that has the first $50,000 of your IRA is yours and protected. Everything over that can go to the people suing you. So you want to know what you're doing. How people inherit your 401k is different than how people inherit an IRA. Make sure you know what you're doing. Required minimum distributions. If you are still working at American Airlines and you are 72 and people are saying, oh, you have required minimum distributions from your 401k now. Nope. If you are still working for the employer whose name is on that 401k, you do not have required minimum distributions. Even if you're one of those 30 people over the age of 80 still working, you do not have RMDs. However, if you rolled it into an IRA, absolutely, the second you hit the magic age, you now have required minimum distributions, even if you're still working. And talk about screwing up your tax planning. All of a sudden, you're getting an extra, $40,000, $50,000 through a taxable income thrown into your balance sheet. That's not fun. Hey, Kim, questions?
Okay. When is the next retirement seminar? We're not sure. We're going to talk to Josh about that today, hopefully sometime in August. So if we can get it out today or tomorrow, we will try and do that. Let's see. That's an insurance question. 65-point plan. I guess we can go back to that. I want to retire with 65-point plan, will only be 47 years of age. No Social Security or Medicare. As a retiree, do we get any compensation at all, a monthly income? That would be your 401k. That's what that's for, your monthly income after you retire. So hopefully you've been taking advantage of the company contribution and match. If you want to retire early like that, you're eligible for the 65-point plan, but the company does not guarantee us any income after we retire, now that they were able to dump the pensions by going through bankruptcy, unfortunately. So a lot of people, if they're going to retire early, will get a part-time job with the company that maybe has healthcare benefits. I know certain companies you can work, like Starbucks, you can work part-time, and if you work a certain number of hours, you still get health benefits. So that's what a lot of people will do. Will get some kind of a part-time job that allows them health benefits to kind of carry them through to when they're eligible for Social Security, Medicare, and so on.
I had a flight attendant on the airplane last trip say, "Oh, well, I'm doing a part-time job for benefits." I go, "What?" It says flight attendant. I'm flying 40 hours.
Yeah, there's that too.
I'm like, I like that. That's pretty clever.
I talked to somebody yesterday who was kind of considering retirement and said the same thing. Basically, I think it'd just be easier to drop to the 40 and fly 40 hours and have the AA benefits. So some people do that. Doesn't work for everybody though.
Yeah, depending on your bid sheet, that could be like 4 days, 5 days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And your base minimum, sometimes it goes pretty senior to get the 40. So, you just never know. Okay, anything after that's going to be Medicare. What this would be pension? No, not pension yet.
Not yet.
Just how many flight attendants have retired this year? Well, as of the end of May, 213 flight attendants have retired, which is a pretty significant number. That puts us ahead of last year at that time. And in another week or so, we should have the numbers for June, which will bump it up a little more, but we don't have that information. So last count was 213 flight attendants had retired so far this year.
That's really interesting, but I want to know how many of that 213 were senior to me in my days. All right. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Social Security. Kim, what can you tell us about Social Security?
Okay, Social Security. Basically, Social Security may be taken as early as age 62 and as late as age 70. There's no increase after the age of 70, so you really don't want to wait. Their website is www.ssa.gov, and there's a lot of useful information. We're not Social Security experts, so we recommend you go there and get some good tips for taking Social Security, including the fact that as a married person, there are a lot of complicated decisions about how and when to take your Social Security. As a single person, there's 9 different options. As a married person, times, 81. Multiply that, 81 options. Yikes. So I will be talking to a Social Security expert when I'm getting ready to do that. There are Social Security advisors and even apps, if you're a geek like Patrick, where you can go and kind of figure out how to maximize your Social Security benefits. Okay, so if you're considering taking early Social Security at age 62, we're going to go through some kind of pros and cons about taking it early. The first pro is that you get more years of payments if you decide to take it early. And sometimes if you have to leave the company because of, I don't know, a family situation or illness or whatever, it might be your only option. Another pro is, like I said, you can get the money early if you need it now. You can get it sooner. I don't know about early enough for everybody, but you can get it sooner. A con is that if you take it early, you're going to have lower payments for the rest of your life. So they're going to stay at that low, consistent rate other than the cost of living increases for the rest of your life. Another con is that if you take it early and you're still earning other income, you could be subject to income limits until you hit your Social Security normal retirement age. So your Social Security normal retirement age, when that comes along, you can take your full Social Security and work, and there's no hits to your income. So what are those income limits? Basically, for 2025, you can earn $23,400 before you hit the income limit. After that, basically, you deduct $1 of benefits for every $2 that you earn over that amount. So what's the break-even point on Social Security, taking it early versus waiting till you're at your full Social Security age? The average age of death. So what is it, 78 point something now, or 79 basically? Yes. If you know when you're going to die, you can easily make that decision. But for the rest of us that don't have a crystal ball, it's kind of a guesstimate, like Patrick mentioned earlier. What am I looking at? Oh, I went all the way through that. So here's a little chart that illustrates that. Basically, the blue line is taking early Social Security, the red line taking your full Social Security at age 66 in so many years, or age 70. I mean, age 67 if you were born after 1960. So where the lines cross, the average age of death. So if you're like my grandmother, who was driving until she was in her late 80s, basically she should have started, maybe she should have waited, you know, because she would have maximized her benefits. She lived a long time. And maybe one of Patrick's uncles who died before they found out if they were going to lose their hair or not, maybe they should have started early and they would have got more before they turned their full Social Security age. So kind of go based on your family history, your general health, and so on. But yeah, it's a guesstimate, and nobody really knows that answer. Okay, so let's talk about, we talk about full Social Security retirement age, your Social Security normal retirement age. And what is that? So we have a little chart that's going to show that to you. Basically, there are some special one-time limits if you're going to reach your Social Security. You were going to do this. If you reach your Social Security in the year that you retire, right? So, you know, you want to start your Social Security in the year they're going to give you a higher limit that year. And so basically for 2025, is it? Yeah, you can earn $62,160 if you reach your full Social Security age in the year that you're going to retire without any income limits. I know.
There you go.
So, and this is the chart that basically shows when you're going to reach your full Social Security retirement age based on the year you were born. Once again, anyone born in 1960 and later, that will be age 67. A lot of people think it's age 65 because it used to be once upon a time, but during the Reagan administration, that was kind of how they balanced the budget, was by stretching out the Social Security normal retirement age for a lot of people, including me. So have to wait longer before I'm eligible for my full Social Security. All right.
So I hear you ask, what counts as earnings for Social Security? Well, funny you should ask. Earnings include income from wages or net earnings from self-employment. What does that mean? Yeah, like you're selling things down at the local flea market and you've got income from that. That's self-employment. So we include that. That includes anything that we're going to characterize as bonuses, commissions. We're going to give you a severance pay that counts as earnings for measuring Social Security. Well, why do we care? Well, Social Security, if you take it early, penalizes you for taking it early. And we penalize you based on how much earnings you have prior to your full Social Security normal retirement age. And so the good news is that earnings does not include investment income. So like from money you've invested, your pensions don't count, capital gains don't count, inheritances don't count. Thus, negative dividends and capital gains won't negatively affect your Social Security benefits directly, even if you decide to file earlier than your full retirement age. So if you're going to go ahead and retire at 67 or whatever your magic number is, or later, you don't care about the earnings limit because you can earn as much as you want and that doesn't impact your Social Security. other than taxation. And that changed last week, so we'll talk about it at some point.
Yeah, we're still waiting for implementation on any of the big bodacious bill or whatever.
Yeah, whatever they call that. I had my own names for it, but so we have this whole series on taxes on Social Security, and I'm going to go through it real quick because it may be a totally moot point at this thing. But the first 15% of your Social Security is tax-free. We're not sure how much of that's going to be next week, but hey, and you may pay tax on 0 to 50% or 85% of the rest, depending on your combined income. Note, this is how much will be taxed, not what the tax rate is. So if you make 0 to 25,000, 0 is taxed, 25 to 34, 50% tax, 34K plus, 85% is taxed. So is there state tax on Social Security? Funny you should ask. Yes, in 37 states, your Social Security is state tax free. 13 states do tax some or all of your Social Security. And who are those bad boys? Here's the list right here. Why do we put this list up here? Because as you retire, taxes become a much more important issue for you. And so you might want to think about, am I in a state that is going to tax my Social Security? So for instance, Colorado's on this list. Well, I've got a lot of friends that have retired to Colorado and were appalled to find out that Colorado taxed their Social Security. You want to think about taxes whenever you start to make life decisions once you're retired, because it will impact you very differently depending on where you are living. All right, that's Social Security. Let's talk about savings. And in addition to cash, stocks, and bonds, which is what we think of when we think about Social Security, you also have other types of savings. For instance, home equity. And there are a couple of ways to tap that. The best one when you're retired is to sell that 5-bedroom, 6-bath house and move into something much more reasonable and make the kids stay at a hotel, which is also makes your life a whole lot easier when they come to visit, but that's that. And then also you may be able to, take a home equity line of credit. You'll get offered very frequently a reverse mortgage on the equity in your house. They used to be awful, horrendous products. Now they're just awful. So we want you to, they're getting better, but you really, really want to understand what you're getting into there, because unlike a regular mortgage where you start out with these huge interest rates at the beginning and you're paying this huge payment and only like $6 is getting applied against your principal, reverse mortgages are the other way. That only a couple of bucks are applied interest on the first couple of months, and then it just continues to grow. So by the end, all of that equity is being eaten up in interest charges. So make sure you know what you're getting into there. And people that are going to be your heirs probably ought to know what you're doing there as well. Also, life insurance, and this isn't what you get if your spouse mysteriously dies. This is if you have life insurance that has cash value. Now, that's not the life insurance we get from our employer. That is a term life insurance, and if you die within the term, you win, I think. Yeah. If you don't die, you get nothing. It's kind of like auto insurance. If you don't have an accident this year, you get nothing back from that auto insurance, and you should be happy about that. Yes. Pensions. Kim, what can you tell us about pensions?
Okay, so basically, how and when you start your pension, if you are lucky enough to have one, is going to be determined by the rules that were in place with the carrier you were working for at the time you earned that pension. So complicated. We have the Legacy US Airways pensions, and we have the Legacy AA pensions, and they all have different rules. So let's kind of go through it. Basically, if you were a Legacy US Airways person before the merge, you could have started out at any one of these carriers. And some of them have comparable rules, some of them have different rules about when and how you can start your pension. So basically, if you were shuttle flight attendant, early pension age is age 52, your full pension age is age 62. If you started early, which you can start it early, even while you're still working, you would have a 3% per year reduction for every year prior to age 62. So that 3% reduction applies across all the different pensions if you take it early. So next, if you are, oops, I jumped too soon. All right, so if you were Piedmont, Allegheny, or US Airways, your early pension age is age 55 and your full pension age is age 62. So you can take it while you're working. Once you hit the early pension age, the 3% reduction per year for taking it early does apply. PSA, 3% applies. Early pension age is age 55. Full pension age is age 65. Now going over to the legacy AA pensions. The early pension age is age 55. You cannot take your AA pension while you're still working at the company, except for one tiny loophole that only applies to a few people every year. Full pension age is age 60. So once you reach age 60, you can start taking your full pension with no reductions. So there's, except for that one small exception, there's no double dipping for the legacy AA pensions. The exception can come into play if you're over the age of 70 and a half and your income that you're earning from the company has dipped below a certain amount and your pension becomes larger than your income. And you don't get to choose it. The company will let you know if you fall into that little category of people. All right, so double dipping, we mentioned it. If you are a former, so there used to be a rule if you were a former US Airways flight attendant that you could not double dip until you reached your full retirement age. That went away in June of 2021. So now, as I mentioned, if you are eligible to start early, all the way through to the full retirement age for your pension, you can start taking your PBGC pension while you're working, which is fondly known of as double dipping. Basically, PBGC pension holders can start early, and the early reductions that I mentioned, the 3% per year prior to the full pension age, does still apply. And again, there's no reduction once you reach the full pension age. So how many different ways can I get my money, Patrick?
Well, funny you should ask. There are 3.
Did I miss something?
Yeah, that was the rest of the double dipping. How many different ways can I get my money? Well, there are 3 basic ways that you can get your money. The first is you can take your pension, and we're talking pensions here. You can take your pension as a single life annuity. The PBGC calls this a straight life annuity, but thankful for us, the SLA, which is the initials, is the same for both of them. You can take a single life annuity, and that's a payment every month to you until you're dead. And when you're dead, it stops. And that's what most of us think about as the single life annuity. Secondly, you can share with someone else, and I do remind you it is nice to share. And third, you can get a minimum number of checks. Whether you're alive or dead, you get a minimum number of checks. So if you're there's a fourth option if you're legacy AA, and that's the more upfront, less later, which we call the level income option. Let's take a look at these. So the single life annuity, you get a check every month until you're dead, and then it stops. And that's what most people think about because a payment every month is an annuity, and for life, it's for life. Therefore, that's why we call it a life annuity, and it's for one life, yours. And so a single life annuity, the PBGC calls that straight life annuity, is the normal form of benefit. And what do we mean by normal? Well, a couple of things. A, that's what an awful lot of people take, is the single life annuity. It tends to be fairly normal to take the single life annuity. Secondly, remember when we were talking about retirement planning that you had to figure out how long you're going to live, how much you're going to make, what form of benefit are you going to get? Well, the company has that same issue when they're trying to fund your pension. So you're this fresh-faced 22-year-old, and they're trying to figure out when you're going to start your pension and how much you're going to make between 22 and 67, and what form of benefit are you going to take, because the funding's slightly different. And they assume that you're going to take the single life annuity, and everything else is based off the value of that single life annuity. Well, what about those other options? Well, let's talk about the nice to share, a pension for your life and someone else's life as well. They'll get an annuity for their life after you're gone. They survived you, and so we call it the survivor annuity. And you never get two checks at the same time. It's you, and then when you're dead, it starts going to them. And remember, the problem is it's still the same big pile of money. So you can choose to leave them 50% to 100% of what you get, not your single life annuity amount, but your amount for the joint annuity. But here's the problem. The more you leave them, the less you get. Oh, well, I guess I have to leave Bozo something, because otherwise they're going to be living under a bridge. All right, well, I'll just take the hit, and I'll just get left while I'm alive so they get something after I'm gone. No, I'll do it. But what happens if they die first? I'm stuck at that lower monthly amount. I could have had a higher amount with the SLA, but I decided to be the nice guy and leave them something. There's a technical term for that, and it's screwed. You're just screwed. However, there is a way to cover that risk. Flight attendants have another option called the pop-up option. And that is by taking even slightly more lower amount each month. You can cover the risk the joint annuitant dies first. With the pop-up option, if your joint annuitant dies first, you pop back up to the single life annuity on your next check, and it stays that way for the rest of your life. So that is actually really cheap insurance, because I know you married that 26-year-old pool boy, you go girl. But yeah, life's uncertain, and you may find that you can't stand them anymore and they have a terrible chlorine accident. But yeah, so life's uncertain. Most people who take the joint and survivor, who have the option, will select this pop-up option as well. But there is another option, and that's the guaranteed period certain. And that is checks come for a minimum of 10, 15, or 20 years on the LA side, or 5, 10, or 15 years on the LUS. It's very rare that anyone would take this because you're going to take less each month to guarantee that checks come for some period of time after you're dead, but you're not sure when you're going to die. So if you were to take, say, the 10-year period certain and they'll live for 12 years, it shows the wrong number. You've taken less for all 12 of those years when you would have had more on the single life annuity. So it's usually only people that are pretty certain they're going to be dead soon and can do the math to determine that this is a better choice than the joint and survivor. But it's nice to know what's out there just in case someone decides they need it. Legacy AA has a fourth option, and that's the level income option, and that's more upfront, less later. I'm not sure this is actuarially sound, but American says, hey, we have a deal for you. Social Security hasn't kicked in yet. We'll give you more of your pension now if you'll take less after Social Security age. Which Social Security age? I think you get to choose. You can either choose the age 62, or you can choose your SSNRA, Social Security Normal Retirement Age, which is becoming more and more common to be 67, except for those of us in the gap. And like I say, I'm not sure it's great, but if you ended up on leaving and you hadn't planned on it, and you haven't really funded your retirement enough so that you are now stuck needing money to pay rent and buy groceries, this may work for you, because you'll get more money now. And then once Social Security kicks in, either 62 or SSNRA, you'll get less. So it's an option out there. Again, not applicable to very many people, but it's nice to know it's there. All right, so how do I apply for my pension? Well, no earlier than 90 days before you start your pension. Oh, no, I need to plan more than that. Nope, sorry, no earlier than 90 days before you start your pension. At LAA, you request a kit over the phone by calling the AA Pension Service Center at Fidelity, or you can visit the netbenefits.com/AA and select the Collect tab and follow the prompts. If you're with a PBGC pension, you can contact the PBGC directly and request the kit. And the kit is the stack of papers that they're going to send you to sign in ink, because old fashioned, and pensions are one of those long-term bureaucracy things. And if you have a spouse, that may or may not need to sign.
I think now you can do a lot of it, well, over the phone,
Oh,
at least with the LAA pensions and Fidelity. I don't know about the PBGC. They may still be a little bit more hidebound, but I know you can do a lot of stuff over the phone if you have a LAA pension, but there still are a few forms that they are going to want your signature on a paper form. So.
All right. Hey, we talked about taxes on Social Security. Is my pension taxable? Well, you're going to pay federal income tax on pensions as ordinary income, either 10 to 37% rate. And here's the tax chart for 2025. So if your income is, say, let's run down to the 24% there, 95 to 182,000, you're going to pay 24% taxes. And you can figure out where you're going to be by adding up all of your taxable income. Remember earlier, we were talking about taxable income? Yeah, add up all your taxable
Like
income.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Or you could ask your financial or tax advisor. So
That I
that would
might
be a
do.
good choice. Yeah, okay. And also, some states don't tax pensions, 14 states, or only tax a portion of them.
Yeah.
There are 4 states that only tax a portion of it. So, yeah. So remember, your mileage may vary. These numbers are used for some mythical flight attendant and not you. Kim, what can you tell us about pension tips?
Okay, we've got a few good pension tips. So, as Patrick mentioned before, your pension kits may be requested from AA or the PBGC 90 days out. So 90 days from the day that you tell them you are going to retire, basically. Pensions always start on the first of a calendar month. So you want to make sure that you're done with your last trip before the end of the previous month. If you have submitted the retirement notification form way in advance, this doesn't really matter because you're going to be removed from everything that touches your retirement date going forward. However, if you are one of those people that doesn't want to let the company know till the last minute because you're kind of on the fence, just be aware. If you have something touching your retirement day, it could mess with things like starting your pension and so on. So you'll want to plan to finish any trips prior to your retirement date. What did I do? So fly through trips, so on could affect your ability to get paid your pension, so on. All right. More pension tips. If you have been divorced, you want to have copies of your divorce decrees or quadros. They will ask for that information. If you tell them, hey, my ex doesn't get anything, they don't believe you. They want to see it in writing on the divorce settlement, unfortunately.
I would not lie about what that person got.
No, never. Because that's why I
divorced them.
Okay, so if you're a widow or a widower and, that spouse was around during the time you were earning your pension, they are going to want to see a copy of the death certificate. Last of all, the first month is always going to be paid retroactively for your pension. So you may retire on August 1st, but normally the legacy AA pensions, they're not even going to process your paperwork until they get a message from the company that you've actually retired. At that point, they'll process the paperwork and it'll be 2 to 4 weeks before you get that first pension payment. After that, it'll be on the first of every calendar month. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the qualified pre-retirement survivor annuity. This is something that legacy AA pension holders have the option to fill out. And basically, federal law says that if you have a pension and you pass away before you start those pension benefits, if you are married and you've been married more than 12 months, then your spouse will get a 50% joint and survivor annuity amount after you pass away. This QIPSA form allows you to elect to leave your spouse in 100% joint and survivor annuity rather than just the 50%. So again, it only applies to the legacy AA pensions. The form is available on the Fidelity website if you want to fill it out. And if you filled it out before the merger, they don't necessarily have a record that you filled it out, but you should be able to call and find out if they have one on file for you. That's something they're going to try and add to the pension website that they haven't done yet. Okay, so the form can be found netbenefits.com/AA, which is the retirees website, or not the retirees, the Fidelity website, or you can link to it through JetNet. The flight attendants are the only work group at the company that get this. It's considered a benefit and we get it for free. It was negotiated. If you talk to a pilot, they may say, don't fill out the QPSA form because it'll affect the amount of your pension. Well, that does not apply to the flight attendants. We get the option to do this for free. Again, as I mentioned before, you have to have been married at least 12 months in order for, to be able to fill out the QPSA form. All right. So any questions about pensions? And I just saw one and it's, did you see it?
I did. How and when can new flight attendants who are currently on probation participate in the pension plan?
It's a sad one.
It's a sad answer. You can't. That was participation in the pension plan was something that we lost in the 2012 LAA bankruptcy,
And the 2005
LUS bankruptcy. Yeah. So, yeah, not there. However, the good news is in this last contract, the union got you an amazing match and contribution to your 401k. You absolutely must max that out so that you do not leave any money on the table for American Airlines. You have to do enough to get that full match. And every little bit beyond helps. So we strongly recommend you do that.
And we have a presentation on our, we've done a few presentations geared more towards the new hires and how to maximize your 401k funds. But what it comes down to is the earlier you start and the more consistent you are about contributing, the better off you're going to be at your retirement age. So there's, what's it called? Easy Savers or something like that. We have that presentation and we have two presentations for new hires about how to.
Yeah, how to maximize your income in retirement.
Right, exactly. So try and find those and we'll probably be doing another one in the next few months. So they're really good and we've had a lot of good feedback on them.
Super. Kim, what can you tell us about medical insurance options?
Okay, medical insurance options. I wish they were better. That's my first thing to say about it. So basically, here are the options. We've got COBRA, which is very expensive. We've got the AA retiree medical insurance that you can opt for if you're eligible for the 65-point plan and not yet eligible for Medicare. Guess what? That's even more expensive than COBRA. Yikes. We have the Affordable Care Act. So still hanging out there for the time being. Stay tuned, but lots of people, depending on what state they live in, opt for Affordable Care Act coverage if they retire before they're eligible for Medicare. So the old-fashioned way, you can marry somebody with insurance or die young, but hey, that's not an option. Let's not go for that one. Marrying someone with insurance, maybe. Only if you like them, though.
How good's the insurance?
He's more skeptical than I am. I say
Cynical.
you gotta like them. You gotta like them. All right. So first, we're going to talk about COBRA. COBRA is a way to continue the health coverage that you had as an active employee. And basically, you don't have to reestablish your deductible or out of pocket because it's a continuation of the exact same plan, exact same coverage that you had when you were active. The participant pays the full cost plus a 2% admin fee. So, and that's the downside because it's pretty expensive. Right now, you think you're paying a lot for your health benefits out of your paycheck. You're paying 20% of the full cost. So add another 80% to that, and that's what you'll be paying if you're paying COBRA. Ouch. but sometimes it's the best option for people, at least for a few months until you can get to Medicare or find a new employment if you have to leave before you're eligible. Sometimes people can go on a spouse's benefit. That's also a good option. So another thing about COBRA, it lasts for 18 months. For most people, if you're eligible for Social Security disability, it can last for up to 29 months. It must be taken within 60 days of the life event. So we're talking about retirement. Retirement would be your life event. And I get calls from people all the time because a lot of us are planners and we want to do things in advance and not leave it till the last minute. COBRA, unfortunately, you have to do it at the last minute. You have to trigger that life event, and your retirement is the trigger for the life event. So once you retire, then usually 24 to 48 hours after that, you will be able to go on the retirees website and click on benefits, go to the Benefits Service Center and make your COBRA elections. You can wait for them to send you something in the mail, but it takes quite a long time. So as I said, it must be done within 60 days of leaving, and it's a one-shot deal. So if you miss that election window, you're up a creek, you're not going to be able to go back and elect COBRA, unfortunately. All right, more about COBRA. It can include medical, dental, vision, and your flexible spending account. You can mix and match, and a lot of people that are eligible for Medicare and go on Medicare for medical elect to continue their dental coverage via COBRA after they retire for the 18 months. So that is an option. Even if you're going on medical something else, you can continue your dental and or vision. Most people do not continue their flex spending account because, when you're having it deducted out of your paycheck as an employee, that's a pre-tax and your benefit. If you're paying it out of your after-tax as a retiree, that kind of cancels out the benefit. So most people don't COBRA their flex spending account. But if you have a bunch in there and you want to use it, by all means, do it for a month or two, use it up, and then drop it. Okay, so another thing about COBRA, basically, it's retroactive to the day you retired. So if you wait till the end of the 60 days, you're not going to just start when you put in for it. It's going to be retro to the day that your active coverage ended. So there's not a way to make it less by doing that, unfortunately. And the last thing, if you don't make the payment will be dropped. You'll be dropped because they're very picky about making payments on time. So if you elect COBRA, make sure you pay for it on time or set up a direct debit or something so you don't make a late payment. All right, so COBRA and Medicare. It's very important to know that if you're eligible for Medicare, once you retire, that COBRA is not considered to be creditable coverage for Medicare. So if you say, hey, I'm not going to go on Medicare yet, I'm going to take COBRA, that doesn't work. You'll end up probably having to pay a penalty for Medicare because while you're active, your coverage is creditable. And once you retire, if you're eligible for Medicare, you have to go on Medicare. COBRA is not considered to be creditable coverage. COBRA is always secondary to Medicare. So just keep that in mind. Anytime you're eligible for Medicare, COBRA is always secondary. And so why pay for something twice if it's not really going to benefit you? Okay, so AA retiree medical insurance. It is offered and a few people take it. You have to be between age 55 and 65 and not yet eligible for Medicare and eligible for the 65-point plan at the time of retirement. The participant pays the full cost. And basically the price is very unstable. It actually doubled in 2015. It's uncapped and it's really based on the people that are still in that plan and their medical claims. So it can be quite costly, but here we'll talk a little bit more about it. Basically,
Okay.
okay, I'm behind. Okay, now I'm there. So it's a good plan. Basically, you have a $150 deductible and $1,000 out-of-pocket max. It's great. But in the price per person per month for 2024, $2,762. Isn't that the rate for 2025? Didn't
It
they
is,
change
it
it?
is.
But it still says
Yeah.
2024 up there. So it's really, really expensive. Great coverage if you can afford it, but most people decide that they can find something less expensive.
I'm constantly amazed that there are always 5 or 6 people who figure this is a good plan and do it.
Right, right. And if you have the RHRA and you have maybe 6 months until you retire, you have a ton in the RHRA and you've got some serious health issues, it might be a good plan, but got to make those decisions based on your situation. And now that our poor little fainting goat has keeled over at these prices, which I would too, what are some other options? Well, the Affordable Care Act is still hanging in there. Go to www.healthcare.gov and you can put in your zip code and get a list of the plans that are eligible for you in your state. You might be eligible for tax credits depending on your income. You might be making less as a retiree. So if you might be eligible for a health care, an Affordable Care Act subsidy. Some people are. If you need help trying to figure all this out, because if you go online and put in your zip code, you're going to get blasted with a million emails. American Airlines contracts with the company called VIA Benefits, and they can help you if you're under 65 and you're looking for Affordable Care Act plans, or if you're over 65 and you're not really sure what Medicare plan to sign up for. Their information is listed in our retirement packet, and their website is my.viabenefits.com/American Airlines. So you can go there, and I've talked to a lot of people that have used VIA Benefits, particularly for the pre-age 65 Affordable Care Act benefits. Okay, so Medicare.
Medicare.
I never thought I'd be old enough to talk about Medicare, but here we are. Do you want to talk about it, or I'm going to talk about it?
P on there.
It says P on there? Okay, we'll let Patrick talk about
All
Medicare.
right, let's talk about Medicare. The most common Medicare question we get is, I am turning 65 or my spouse is turning 65 and my sister says I have to go on Medicare and just lose Americans insurance. Your sister's wrong yet again.
Not true.
Not true. You do not need to go on Medicare. Your spouse does not need to go on Medicare as long as you continue to have American Airlines insurance. But my sister said her employer didn't cover Medicare. Could be. If they have less than 20 employees, they could not offer that. They may force you to go to Medicare.
And some companies write their health plans such that you are required to go on to Medicare when you turn 65.
Yep.
Even if they're a bigger company, they just make you go on Medicare.
Good. And that is not true at American Airlines. So you do not need to go on Medicare. And that's true of all of it. Part A, Part B, Part D. What? Yeah.
What are all these parts?
What are all these parts? Let's talk about these parts. Part A is the original classic Medicare. It covers your hospitalization. And it used to be in the old days that hospitalization was the thing that made people, old people go broke. Is they went into the hospital, heart attack, broken hip, something, and the cost of the hospitalization was just overwhelming and old people ended up bankrupt. Medicare Part A was established to take care of those and provides that coverage, and you pre-fund that coverage for your entire working career. You'll notice you have a FUTA deduction, except now they actually call it Medicare deduction from each and every paycheck that funds that. So it's not like it's a gift from the government. You've been paying for this for your entire life, and now once you go on Medicare, you get that for no charge. There is a deductible, there is some co-pays and co-insurances, but there's no premium for it once you retire. Secondly, Part B is a much later addition to Medicare, and Part B covers your doctor's visits, your lab tests, things that used to be not big deals, and now they become bigger and bigger and more expensive. So some of these lab tests are frighteningly expensive. And I could bore you for years with that. And then Part D is our most recent addition. Oh, and Part B, before I leave on, Part B, you pay a premium every month that you're retired on Medicare. And I'm going to say it's $187, somewhere right in there every month for each person who's on Part B, unless you're rich. And you can look in our book and find the threshold of rich, in which case you will pay a higher amount. And we had a presentation 3 years ago about insurance that included some of the discussions of Medicare, the IRMA, and the higher premiums and how possibly to avoid those. So I
2
encourage.
years ago and 3 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The thing is that the Social Security people figured out Medicare people figured out pretty quickly that some of us old people are pretty sneaky. And so we had old people who got time for Medicare, and they said, I don't want to pay $180-something. I'm just going to wait until I'm sick. And then once I'm sick, I'll turn on the insurance and they can cover it then. Well, insurance doesn't work that way. If you are making premiums for all those months you don't need it, it's going to go bankrupt very quickly if you only pay premiums in the months you do need it. So they said, we're gonna get these people. We're going to add a late enrollment fee. And if you are late in enrolling when you should have enrolled, and that's a really important, people will tell you, well, it's at 65. No, it's when you should have enrolled. You will pay a late enrollment fee. Well, I wasn't supposed to enroll at 65 because you just said I had Americans insurance. Absolutely. The question is, you go in at 72 and say, hey, I just retired. I just came off of Americans insurance. I now need Medicare. How do they know that you shouldn't have signed up at 65? There's a form. And that is the CMS L564, which rolls off her tongue. I always have to look it up. So I have the form. Here's what that form looks like. And it looks suspiciously to me like your family medical leave form. You fill out
a lot less complicated.
Yeah, true. You fill out the top, send it in. American fills out the bottom. They send that back to you. You can, yes. So let's talk about Medicare. So the problem with Medicare is that it's an 80-20 plan. So I go into the hospital, I have $1 million worth of hospitalization, which I used to think was totally impossible. And I'm much more it's much more believable that you could run $1 million up on a hospital in a couple of weeks of treatment. And the thing is, it's an 80-20 plan. So Medicare will pay the $800,000. You're on the hook for the $200,000. So because of that, you needed some protection for it. You need to fill in that gap, and we have what we call a Medigap policy. It's also called a Medicare supplement, and that covers that 20% you have to pay. And the other problem with Medicare is that there's no out-of-pocket max. You will just continue to pay your 20% forever. There are Medigap plans are available from commercial carriers, Aetna, Blue Cross, all those people have Medigap plans. And there are 10 different standardized plans. So if you look at the standardized plans, and in our good slide, we have a really nice chart showing you that the plan A covers these things, plan B covers these things. And the cool thing about the standardization is if you look at Aetna and say, how much is an Aetna plan B in my zip code? You're comparing apples to apples. If you then look at Blue Cross and say, what's Blue Cross's plan B in my zip code? So that's really handy. Also, AA retirees have an 11th plan available to us called, it's a VEBA, or Voluntary Employment Benefits Association. They created specifically for retired airline workers. It may be better for you than the other 10. It may not. It's just an additional option that you get to look at. So, Patrick? That's a lot of pieces. Yeah. So there's another option. It's Part C. And we also call that an Advantage plan. You'll notice that's with 1 A, not 2 A's, although my spell checker wants to make it 2 A's. And that's essentially privatizing your Medicare into an HMO. And we recommend that you contact a Medicare advisor for information on that. Kim talked earlier about the VEBA benefits people. They are also licensed Medicare advisors You have to call a different phone number, but you can, not Viva.
Yeah,
Via. It started with a V. It's easy, yeah.
close.
Close. Via benefits people, and they can give you advice on Advantage plans. It varies drastically based on where you are located. And it's an HMO, so you're basically going to have to go see their doctors that are on their list. And that may work out fabulously for you. It may not, depending on, where you live and who your providers are. There's a lot more information available on Medicare.gov, which is surprisingly helpful for a government website.
And another tip about Medicare, when you speak to a Medicare broker, and VIA Benefits is one of them, some others that flight attendants have used and recommended are called Boomer Benefits, and there's one called Select Quote Senior. They, the more you tell them about your health situation, the better plan that you're going to get for you, because HIPAA prevents them from asking you, hey, what doctors do you go to? Do you have any health issues? Are you on any medication? But if you're willing to share that information with you, they're going to get you a better plan that works better for you, where your doctors and your meds are included. So yeah, I think it's important to know that when you're talking to a Medicare advisor.
Yeah. Tell them, don't wait for them to ask you.
Because they probably
They
won't.
probably won't, yeah. The other thing is both with the Part D and with the Part C plans, what is covered and what isn't covered is varies. It is different from plan to plan. So for instance, you may be on Lipitor. Lipitor is a generic, it's $5 for a 90-day supply, it's no big deal, but you may also be on a drug, say Repatha, which is $2,700 a month that may or may not be covered depending on which Advantage or which Part D you're planning. So you want to make sure that you're disclosing about everything that you are taking and who you're seeing. Hey, Ms. Kim, what can you tell us about what else I need to research?
Yeah, those little details that you need to think about. So we'll go through a few more things and then we're getting close to the end and we'll answer some more questions. So basically, what else do I need to research? You need to think about life events, need to think about optional insurance coverage, your, life insurance or your long-term care insurance if you're planning on keeping things that you have while you're at the company and which ones you can keep. Dental insurance, what are you going to do about dental coverage once you've retired? Flexible spending accounts, how do you sort that out? So basically, let's start with life events. Basically, it's very important to know that if you're retiring and you're planning on going on your spouse's benefits, your retirement date is the life event. So for them to add you to their benefits. So normally they have 30 to 60 days to add you to their coverage. So if you're one of those people that's planning on going on their spouse's benefits when you retire, just keep that in mind, that your retirement is their life event to add you. If you're married to an AA employee, basically you need to keep in mind that even though you're going to their coverage and it's the same company and everything, it's not like COBRA where it's a continuation of the plan that you had. They look at it as a new plan. So if you're retiring in November and you go on your spouse's benefits for 2 months of the year, you're starting over with your deductible and your out-of-pocket max. Yours was wiped out when you retired. So, it might be worth it to do COBRA for 2 months and then go on your spouse's benefits at the beginning of the year. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, so the next thing is optional insurance. Examples include MetLife, legal, your long-term care, home and auto policies, pet insurance. All of those things are already individual policies, and you can just call AA Added Benefits and tell them, hey, I want to continue that coverage. Can you please, I'm retiring, can you please start direct billing me because I'm not going to have payroll deduction anymore. Other coverage such as your employee life insurance, That you can port or convert it into an individual policy. And it's usually, again, 30 to 60 days that you have to do that from your retirement. The good thing about porting or converting your life insurance is that it doesn't require a physical to qualify. Basically, though, you're converting a group policy with the company to an individual policy, so it does get a bit more expensive. If you wanted to convert your life insurance, you would need to contact MetLife. If you wanted to convert your AD&D or voluntary personal accident insurance, you would contact New York Life. And those numbers are in the back of our retirement packet and in the company's retirement and benefits information. Okay, so long and short-term disability, basically that coverage will end when you retire. But if you have an active claim, so you filed for long or short-term disability prior to your retirement, or you've, have a claim in the works that hasn't been approved yet, basically those payments will continue as long as you're still eligible. So if you're receiving long-term disability benefits, your retirement will not necessarily affect those benefits as long as you're still eligible to receive them. Okay, so the next thing is dental insurance. Yikes. Scary. I don't know why people don't really want to talk about dental insurance with retirees because, hey, we all still want to take care of our teeth. And it is getting better than it once was, but for a while there, it was really hard to find dental plans after you retired. Now, most of the Medicare brokers that you contact will have some options for dental plans. AA will offer you dental coverage, but it's high dollar and, low rating. Most people don't take it. So most people opt out of the retiree dental coverage. Most people do COBRA their dental benefits, even if they're Medicare eligible, because it's not that expensive. The dental benefits are not subsidized by the company when we're active to the same extent that the medical benefits are. So when you switch to COBRA for dental, it's not nearly as expensive. So also many Medicare supplement plans, Medigap plans, as I said, have dental riders now. So talk to your Medicare advisor about that and see if there are any options for dental. Some people still choose to do the COBRA as long as possible, but some people find options that are comparable that they can start when they start their Medicare. Okay, flex spending accounts. Basically, normally, if you don't use all your flex spending other than $500 in a year, you're going to lose some of your money. When you retire, it's possible to kind of maximize your flex spending. So for instance, if I decided to put $3,000 in my flex spending account and I used the whole $3,000 by the end of February, and then I retire on March 1st, I've had only made a couple of deposits, January and February, and I have a whole year's worth of deposits to make. I don't have to pay that back. The company gets to eat what I spent in my flex spending account. So that's one time where you can use it and the company loses it. So if you wanted to retire early in the year and you do a flex spending account, make sure to use the whole amount before you retire. So Patrick, a few more words about retirement.
I do.
Your turn to decide if you're ready to retire.
Absolutely. And the thing is that there are just a lot of moving pieces to this, but I'm confident that it's nothing you can't handle. I mean, you take care of, 236 people hungry and coach and don't even bat an eye. You figure out those 39 special meals. You get it all done. You go through drills every year, and you go through where is the medical equipment on a 737K, whatever the heck that is. So I have confidence that you can handle it. So what else do you need to do before you leave? Start a list. And there's a great list as a base in our Good Slide packet. Go to page, I believe it's 37, and start the list there. You will have your own items that you need to add to that, but it's a great start. Speaking of CQ, how do you do a list? One step at a time, in order, just like that planned emergency checklist. I think of it as kind of like a planned departure checklist. You will find it will work wonders in A, calming your nerves because you know what comes up next, and B, just focusing on a task because there are a lot of moving pieces and you need to focus on it. And lastly, don't be afraid to ask questions. There is a very, very, very good chance that you haven't retired before. So you're not expected to know all of this. Don't be afraid to ask questions. In particular, ask APFA, because our goal is to make you have a better life than to not. And so that may not necessarily be the goal of your employer. So you've done the research, you've planned, you've talked to your financial advisors, you're ready, you are prepared. Guess what? You've got this. You're ready. Let's go. Good slide.
Yay.
Yay.
And speaking of questions, we've got a few more questions. So people are asking questions.
All right.
Here's
Questions?
one about COBRA. So how long does the company allow you to stay on COBRA? Normally it's 18 months. If you're eligible for Social Security disability, then it can be up to 29 months.
And I might point out, the company wouldn't necessarily do that. They are
Legally
legally
required.
required to do that. So, yeah.
It's not out of the goodness of their heart.
A, goodness, and B, heart, but yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, another question, and you covered this, so I'll let you answer this one, Patrick. When do you need to sign up for Medicare? What if a spouse is Medicare eligible, but I'm not? Would you please explain the different plans? We covered that, but I want to review when you do need to sign up for eligible, say I'm working, my spouse is turning 65, I'm not. How do I handle that?
You do not need to sign up for Medicare, Part A, B, C, D, none of those, as long as you continue to have coverage from American Airlines active employee insurance.
And that includes your spouse. So if you're not eligible for Medicare, but your spouse is on your AA coverage, they don't have to sign up for Medicare until you retire or leave the company and you lose that coverage. And your spouse would just have to fill out that employment verification form that we showed you earlier in the presentation to prove that he's had AA coverage since they turned 65. So.
How far does that extend? We had a flight attendant take the early out 4 years ago, and their spouse, who was considerably older than them, was 87 years old and had never been on Medicare for a minute. And when they got the verification form, the flight attendant of the retiree reported that the woman said, "Boy, you missed a bullet with this form."
Okay, so next, does the company offer dental insurance through COBRA, and if so, how much? So the company, you are allowed to continue your dental insurance through COBRA if you had it. And the monthly premium for COBRA, for COBRA dental currently, and it's probably going to change because it always changes every calendar year, but for 2025, if you have the dental plus for one person, it's $37.67 a month. If you have a spouse on, it's $77.98 a month. So that's the dental basic for one person, $27.12 a month for COBRA. So that gives you an idea of what the COBRA dental costs are.
All right, this one's for you, Kim. When are your sick hours put into the RHRA account after you retire?
It's usually pretty quick. I think over the holidays, the 4th of July holiday, there were a few people that had to wait a little bit longer. But basically, AA has to do the calculation and then get the information over to Fidelity. So it should be within like a couple of days to a week at the most that it goes before you can see it all on the Fidelity website.
And remember, an awful lot of those are going to be reimbursements. So if it's a day or two delay, you'll get reimbursed for it.
And if you have a medical expense, you usually have a period of time to file for reimbursement. So
Speaking of after retirement, how long after retirement date do you get your final paycheck?
Okay, well, normally your last paycheck, which includes the last hours that you worked, any expenses and so on, it's 2 weeks after you retire. So if you retire on the 1st, you would get a 15th paycheck. And I think normally your sick hours are in that paycheck. Your vacation pay can come a little bit later, so it could be another 2 to 4 weeks after that. So you'll get a last paycheck and then you'll get a final paycheck that has all your vacation pay in it.
Yes. And they keep saying that they're going to get that final paycheck quicker and quicker. And sometimes they move it up a day or two and then, but, so yeah, but just plan on 4 to 6 weeks after your retirement date, getting everything wrapped up there. Actually, someone here is a great one. I mentioned that there are required minimum distributions for IRAs, but not for your 401k if you're still active with that employer. And someone dropped in the chat a really good comment, and they're like, yes, I don't have to do RMDs. I'm 77 years old. I'm not doing any RMDs because I'm still active with American. But I should think about when I retire, because if I retire on November 1st, I will have RMDs for this calendar year because I was retired for 2 months of this year. If I instead push that retirement to December 31st, I will not have the double RMD problem when I retire. So that's a really good comment. And thank you for sharing that.
However, there's 2 schools of thought, because if you wait till the next year, your RMD may be bigger and you may have to pay more taxes on it. So some people like to spread it out into the 2 years for that reason. So talk to your financial planner, which we are not.
Pension, I guess for me, can you leave your pension to your child or only to a spouse? If you die before you retire, your pension can only go to a legally married spouse to whom you've been married for more than a year. Well, on the day you retire, you get to designate who you want to be your joint and survivor annuitant. It can be anybody. It can be your spouse. It can be your kid. It can be me, HANCOCK. You can pick anybody. So no, it doesn't. Once you are starting your pension, you can name anyone as your joint and survivor. There is a caveat. They calculate how many years after you're dead that they're going to have to pay that joint and survivor. So if they're much younger than you, say they're your kid, your reduction on your amount while you're still alive is going to be much bigger because the kid's going to get 60, 70, 80 years of payments. So you may want to model that in the Fidelity app before you actually pull the trigger on that.
And keep in mind that your pension is supposed to be your retirement income. That's, why you were sitting there trying to earn the pension and everything. So you would have income to live on when you retired. So, and there were those options that Patrick talked about, like the guaranteed period certain, that you could guarantee that somebody else other than a spouse would get a pension payment for a certain number of years without as big of a reduction if you had a kid in college or something like that you were concerned about. So there are other options, and Fidelity can walk you through all those.
All right.
Or the PBGC.
Question for you. How much per month is the COBRA?
Okay, the COBRA. It depends on the plan you're in, of course. So talked about the COBRA dental already. COBRA medical, that's another animal. It's very expensive. So if you're in the high cost coverage plan, your COBRA will be for one person per month, $1,794.26. That's if you're in the high cost coverage. If you're in the standard plan, which is kind of the middle of the road plan, it's for one person, $890.70. The core plan, which is the high deductible plan, is $791.79. So anywhere from, close to $800 to $1,700 would be the range for the COBRA cost. So definitely something you need to plan for if you're thinking about taking COBRA.
All right. I heard that you can retire on IOD. Anything I should be aware of that's different than from a normal retirement?
Okay, so if you're on an IOD, you can just retire anytime. And then you would submit the form and, you know, you would retire. Now, if you're in an IOD settlement situation where you have an attorney and they're trying to settle out your claim, that can be done after you retire. So if you've already retired and you're working on a settlement, that process can continue and you can be awarded a work comp settlement after you retire. If you have not yet retired and you accept a work comp settlement that requires you to resign, they usually use the word resign, but normally as long as you're eligible for the 65-point plan, you're allowed to be a retiree. So if you take a work comp settlement that requires you to resign or retire, the day you sign the settlement is normally your retirement date. And that legal document, the settlement, is the notification to the company that you are going to retire. So in that situation, if you're taking a work comp settlement and you have not yet retired, your retirement notification is via that signed settlement that's approved by work comp and AA's legal department. So if you have more questions about that, you should probably contact the injury on duty department here at APFA. They're very knowledgeable and very helpful.
All right, I guess I'll take this one. At what age do you think the majority of flight attendants will retire? Has that number changed over the years?
Yes.
Absolutely changed. When I first started doing this retirement work back in the day, there was a clause in the pension plan that said if there was still anybody age 70 and older flying, which obviously wouldn't happen. I mean, come on, no one's going to be 70 being a flight attendant. They must start taking their pension. And all of a sudden, we had 70-year-olds. We had 2 of them. And the company responded by saying, well, let's amend the plan so that you can't start your pension until you retire. And so, yeah, just over the course of the decades, that has shifted. Over the last 10 years or so, we have seen a continuing graying of the workforce as people don't retire. That the average age of the employees, particularly when we were in hiring, just kept going up and up and up. And so the age of active employees, if you look at that curve, it just continues to get older and older. So yes, it has changed over the years, and people delay retiring for so many different reasons, one of which is we're all healthier than we used to be. Someone said on the airplane the other day, well, you know, 60 is the new 40. And I said, tell my body that. But yeah, we're all healthier than we used to be. We have the option to retire later that not everyone had. And so, yes, it has changed. Looking at the numbers, it's really odd. We have a bunch of people who retire like right at 55, like they're just out of here. And now that the 65-point plan actually allows them to leave before that, there's a group, and it's not a huge group, but there's a group that leaves just pretty much as soon as they're eligible for the 65-point plan. And then people just kind of trit out until you hit Social Security age. And at Social Security, both 62 and then whatever your SSNRA is, a lot of people use that as a trigger point to say, okay, I can substitute my wages with Social Security income, and they retire at that point. I keep talking to people on the airplane that say, well, I'm drawing Social Security and flying so that I can kind of get, you know, a little bit more socked away. They're using that extra income to save more for retirement. Yes, the age is different, and it's getting older and older.
Okay, a couple more questions. What is the link for the APFA checklist on the website? So on the APFA website, you basically go up to resources in the top menu bar across the top, click on that, then click on retirement. And once you're on the retirement page, you scroll down and you'll see retiree checklist. You have to scroll down a little bit on the page, and then it says, it has different options based on where you are. It says between 90 and 30 days prior to retirement. During the last month you're employed, 30 days after you retire. So it has a whole list of broken down into things you need to do and at which point. Now, you can do it later if necessary. This is kind of broken into optimal numbers, but people retire less than 90 days out and plan it less than 90 days out. So if you have any questions, you can email or call us about how to coordinate all that. But it's very well laid out on the retirees page on the APFA website.
Well, this one's been in there a while, and I think I've already answered it. If my husband retires after he's age 65, does he now get covered by my health insurance, or is Medicare a better option?
That's a personal choice.
Yeah. Most people tell me that our insurance is better than Medicare. There may be some exceptions. So for instance, there may be a Advantage plan that works really well for your doctors, your illnesses, your coverages, that may work better because American's plan's not free. I mean, I'm paying a heck of a lot of money in premiums, even the subsidized rate. So some people have told me they absolutely believe they're better off in an Advantage plan. Great, go for it. Do what's best for you. But most people stay in an American's plan is the smarter option.
The main people that have had, there have been a few people that have gone on Medicare and tried it out because it's less expensive in terms of premiums. But the ones that end up coming back onto the AA plan, which they can't do until the next open enrollment or something, have done it because of the prescription drug costs. So that's what it seems to be more expensive on Medicare for most people. If you're on some expensive prescription drugs, it seems like they're less expensive on the AA plan.
And then an interesting one, is burning through sick time still a thing? Maybe. That you will, thanks to our thank you negotiating team for getting this, but the RHRA, it allows you to put your entire sick bank at half pay into an RHRA account and use that. And that's a great advantage. However, if you take it as sick time, legitimately, don't call in sick if you're not sick, you're getting 100% pay. So yeah, some people don't feel they need the RHRA and have a valid reason for calling in sick and burn through their sick time before they leave.
So if you want to use your sick time before you leave for a legitimate medical reason, but maybe don't want to have to provide medical substantiation, you can call out for up to 21 days without having to provide medical substantiation. But keep in mind, the first 6 days of a sick call are one occurrence. After it hits the 7th day, you've got 2 occurrences. So if you've got tons of banked points, that's not a big deal. If you're doing that once or twice, it might not be a big deal, but you don't want to get in a situation where you're racking up all these occurrences and then you're suddenly on preterm. So you can use your sick time without substantiation. If you call in for up to 21 days, it will normally be 2 occurrences unless you hit a holiday during that period of time, and then it will be 3. So you just have to kind of manage your occurrences. So it can be done. You just have to pay attention to what you're doing. And the health department can be helpful and, about knowing all the ins and outs of that as well. And family leave is a useful tool, as well as if you're eligible for family leave, because family leave makes sure, if you call in sick and you're using it for the medical reason that you qualified for family leave, it's not going to be an occurrence at all.
Right. The other thing maybe is if you don't have 4 months before you need to retire to give notice to get the RHRA, at that point, the option, assuming it's a valid option, is to use your sick time. All right, that's the end of our good questions. Anything else?
No, I think we've about covered it.
All right.
Thank everybody for tuning in. Sorry, we went a little bit long today. We had a lot of good questions. So email retirement@apfa.org or call us if you have any questions.
And fly safe. Thank you.